my dad, Obie Hanger, who you all know and love. I don't really know what I'm supposed to say right now at this point. I see that Mom is walking away, but she told me to get started. So I will say that we've got delicious food over here, that way. There's also delicious drinks. We got drink tickets at the front. My name's Nissa, but I think you all probably know that. And we've also got a memorial photograph sign-in frame, I don't know, what do you call these things, that we would love if all of you could sign, put a special message. There we go, good. I have a lovely assistant, finally. Because this is going to be our memorabilia for this whole thing of all of us finally getting to come together. Yay! I am so thrilled to see all of you. We also made these memorial bookmarks. Dad really loved reading books, read so many books. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So I wanted everybody to have bookmarks, and they have. He also wrote a lot of haikus the last decade of his life, and so we've got his all-star best haiku ever on there, as well as once I cracked the code on his iPhone, I got into the notes on his phone and found his last two haikus, which were very shortly before he passed, and it really sounded like he kind of knew it was coming a little bit. Interestingly, I would expect no less. So I am gonna share some things. I forget. Am I supposed to play first, or are you talking? Oh, I'm gonna play. Okay, I'm gonna play. Here. Stall while I pick this guitar up. You say a little bit.
Okay. I guess you're all wondering why we called you here. No, we're just kidding. We know why we're here. We're going to be joyous. I just got to tell you though, Mary says turn it up. Turn it up, turn it up. Or come up closer if you want to. Especially if you want to sing or talk, you're going to have to come up here. But first of all, I want to say, we're happy Skippers is here and reopened and came back to life. Yay! I couldn't imagine doing this anywhere else, and of course with COVID we had to wait anyway, and they closed, but they finally reopened, and we're so grateful and happy that they did and that we can be here. And the other thing I want to say is I have a very good friend, Victoria, who has a great saying about when the heart gets squeezed, the love juice flows out the eyes. And so I'm not crying, just having some love juice, okay? So I'm just full of love, and I'm so grateful everybody came here to honor my buddy, and we're going to have a good time. We got some good music and some good words, and hopefully you do too, and we're just going to have fun and be joyous. Okay?
Okay.
I like it.
So, yeah, that's up. We turned it up to 11. Yeah, Dad showed me Spinal Tap. I know what that joke's from. One of the many gifts that my dad gifted me with is appreciation for music and the playing and sharing of music, which I think definitely originated in his family. Am I right, Hangers? There we go. There they are. One of my favorite, the last time we were all together was on Zoom, of course, because it was a pandemic, and I don't know if you all remember, but Trisha wanted to have everybody sing something, and y'all start singing Take Me Home Country Roads. And even though, you know, the timing was off because it's the internet and everything, man, it really brought me to tears. And that was really super, super special. One of the things that we did regularly when I was a kid is go to these things, mostly on Friday or Saturday nights, called Pick and Sings. Where are my Pick and Singers out there? I thought this was what everybody did until some kid in 5th grade asked me what I was doing on Friday night, and I said, I'm going to Pick and Sing. And he goes, what's that? And I'm like, you don't know? You don't know what a pick and sing? You know, it's where all the adults play music, and then the kids get to go run around. And he's like, oh, we just order pizza. So when Dad passed, I had started playing some guitar before he passed, mostly because he has this song that I consider the most beautiful song ever called Growing Close. And I hope to be able to learn how to play it before this thing, but man, it's not simple cowboy chords, all right? And but I inherited all these guitars, and who's gonna play them? I figured I might as well start learning, right? So music and playing music and singing has been a huge part. I've never had a loss like losing Dad. And grief is such a heavy weight, and you got to find some way to carry that weight. And so Mom and I would do porch songs, and I'd sit on the porch and learn some songs, and we'd play them. I'd play them, she'd sing. We'd try to sing in harmony as best as we could. And so this was one of those songs that actually Lisa said, hey y'all, you need to learn this song that Nancy Griffiths sing called Across the Great Divide. And I just wanted to share this one with you all because it really helped me through some of the tough moments. And I almost feel like the 3 verses are represent the grief experience, or at least represent my experience with the grief. You know, it's beginning with not being able to sleep, having a hard time sleeping, and sifting through papers. I was singing this a lot when I was going through a lot of Dad's stuff. And then it talks about the owl talking. And I feel like, you know, I don't know what your belief is, but we get signs. We get signs from the natural world. And then the last verse is kind of about coming to peace with it all, at least for me. So here we go. Tell me how that level is, Larry. How's it sounding? I've been walking in my sleep, counting troubles instead of counting sheep. Where the years went, I can't say. I just turn around and they've gone away. I've been sifting through the layers, dusty books and faded papers that tell a story I used to know, and it was one that happened long ago. It's gone away yesterday. Now I find myself on the mountainside where the rivers change directions across the great divide. I want to close my eyes, but I gotta look where my fingers go. Now I hear the owl calling softly as the night has fallen. Yes, a question, and I replied, said he's gonna cross borderline. He's gone away yesterday. Now I find myself on a mountainside where the rivers change directions across the great divide. Now I invite all of you to, if you'd like, close your eyes and just think about Dad. Whatever your favorite memory is of him. Some silly joke or profound saying. Now I am the finest hour I have seen is the one that comes in between the edge of night and the break of day. It's when the darkness simply rolls away. It's gone away yesterday. Now I find myself on the mountainside where the rivers change directions across the great divide. Thank you. All right, I think now I'm gonna ask my mama to come up here and say whatever she's got on her list. Get your props.
I need to be closer to my audience, and I need something to put all my stuff on. Our roadie. Here's our roadie. Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm gonna try to get through this. You know, this would have been our 40th anniversary party. If my buddy had still been with us, we'd have been married 40 years on Monday, Valentine's Day. So that's what we're celebrating. I want to talk and tell you about how when I first met him. My husband was part of a band called Fellman Hanger. Fellman is right down here in the first row. They played music around town at the old Peanut Gallery and the Proud Lion Pub and all kinds of things. And we had a really good mutual friend called Darlene Calleja. And Darlene knew all the musicians in town, and I was living with her, and she goes, "So you got to go meet Ovie and Larry." I'm like, "Okay." We'd already met Kevin and Gary of Stuart Tussing and a few others. So we go to the Proud Lion, and we watch them play, and they get off and take a break, and Larry comes over, we meet, we shake hands, we chat a little bit, and then here comes Ovie, and we shake hands, and then he walks away. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm not used to men walking away from me. So. But he wanted to take a break and go smoke a cigarette, so that was okay. But that was our first meeting. Pretty soon he asked me out for a date. And if you guys remember back in the day when I was young and beautiful, I used to wear vintage clothes and dripping lace before it was fashionable because of Stevie Nicks. And I'd wear slips for dresses and things like that. So our first date, my friend Darlene liked to take me shopping. She'd get some money twice a year and we'd go to the mall. Well, she ended up buying me what I wanted, and the thing I wanted was a black nightgown that looked like a dress, you know, close. and some red candy shoes. Remember candy shoes that we all had back in the, well, some of us did, back in the day. So red high heels and a black dress, or slip, or nightgown it was, but for me it was my dress. So he comes to pick me up, and I say, I'll be right out. So I come out in my dress and put my shoes on, and he thinks, oh, she's still getting ready. She's gonna go put her dress on. And I come back out and grab my purse and said, I'm ready. And he goes, okay, alrighty. So he knew who I was from the get-go. And we went to a party that some of you guys may have been there, that knew him back then. And from then on, we were together. That first night we spent together, I'll never forget that morning when we got up. He says to me, I feel like the first day of spring after a long, hard winter. And I thought, how romantic. And already I thought he was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. I mean, if you see those pictures up there when he was a young man, he was like a cross between Elvis Presley and Ricky Nelson. And I was like, wow, this is my dream man. And so we were together a couple years on and off, and then finally the second date, I think it was, he asked me, did I ever want to get married and have children? And I'm like, what? I didn't think they made men like you anymore, who wants to do that? I didn't. I had been married once for a short while and thought, no, this ain't for me. I didn't think about children when I'm 20 or, 25, however how old I was. And I realized, well, this man wants to get married and have kids. Okay, well, we kind of did our thing on and off. We did talk about getting married, and we decided we'd get married on Valentine's Day. We just didn't say what year. And I wanted him to move in with me and live together before we got married because, like I said, I'd already tried that once, and I thought, let's do this right. Well, he didn't want to move in unless we were going to get married. So I said, okay, we'll get married. And so he moved in my old house. I lived in an old house. This is back in the days of going to college and old hippies where you found an old house and lived in it with no heat and, $50 a month to pay the landlord. And so he moved in with me to my old house. And after he moved in, I realized, I don't want to get married right yet. So I told him, so he always said I tricked him into moving in with me. But I did within the next year say, okay, we'll get married, because I had seen him again playing at Proudline Pub and seeing this beautiful man and watching all these women going gaga over him. And I went, I better marry that man, somebody else will. So I said, okay. So we then planned our wedding. I mean, at the first time when he moved in, we wouldn't have had time to plan a Valentine's wedding. That was at Christmas. So the following year we got married, and we had a beautiful wedding that some of you guys were at. And we from then moved on to houses and jobs, and I bought my salon roomers, and he went to work at Nielsen at the same time. And then he worked there on and off for 40 years. We have the Nielsen representatives over here on the table, and they know a lot about him that I don't know, and hopefully they'll come tell some stories too. But he also, of course, still played music. He and Larry didn't play much after we got married, except for community things, and they did a big thing at Florida Mental Health Institute, which is where he was working at the time, where he got into computers and then moved on to Nielsen. So let me see, yeah. So he really got into the computers. He had a degree in psychology, but he really didn't like people, and so it was really hard to be a counselor. I mean, he liked people, he just was very quiet, he was a very quiet man. But he really got into computers, and so much so he bought one of the very first little handheld Radio Shack computers. And I still had that up till a year or two ago, and he wrote my first poem on that. And he proceeded to write many more poems over the years, which you can see up here, and showered me with these romantic, beautiful poetry declarations that I thought, how lucky am I? Now, because he was in computers, he could digitize everything, which he did. He was a little bit OCD in some ways, and he liked to keep track of everything, and he could do it easily on the computer. He knew every room we'd ever stayed at our condo in Cocoa Beach. He had it all written out. He knew what room we'd stayed and when and where, so he kept up with things like that. He was my tech support. Anything I needed on my computer, he would fix. I have had a heck of a time since he's been gone. I need a new Norton, and I don't know how to get it on there, so I've had to learn to do things like that myself. At Nielsen, he worked on and off for almost 40 years. He quit once to take care of his dad when his dad was dying. And then he quit once to be a consultant on his own. But he went back, and he kept going back. And Nielsen treated him really good, and treated me good, and he had a good life there. He made some friends, but being that he lived over here, Nielsen was over there in wherever it was, Dunedin, yeah. I never, he didn't do a lot of socializing over there, and being that he wasn't that much of a social guy anyway, he missed a lot of that you would normally have. But he talked a lot about things he was doing, and a lot of it I had no idea what it was and what it meant, and maybe you guys can fill in some of that. But Nielsen, of course, media research, this is where we get the Nielsen rating, so everybody knew Nielsen. Often he was deep in thought, and part of his quietness, he would, a group of us would be there, and he'd just be in the corner, rubbing his beard and thinking about things. And it made a lot of people nervous that he was so quiet. My mother even asked, is he mad at me? I'm like, no. He's probably writing a song in his head or working out some computer issue. He loved the computers because he said that he wrote the songs that made the computers sing. And he often had issues, he had a problem. It was some program that just wasn't working right. And he would go to bed and wake up with a solution. He would have a dream or something. He would jump up out of bed at 2 in the morning and get on the computer. So he was very creative that way. And I think he was good at his job, though. I don't really know. But one of the fun things that he did at Nielsen was, he called it daylight shaving time. He would grow a beard in the winter, and he grew a great beard, a real full beard and a head of hair. So he'd grow that beard in the winter, and then when the time changed, he would call it daylight shaving time, and he would shave that beard off. And then back in the fall when it started growing, he'd call that standard bearded time. So he'd let it grow. So he had a winter face and a summer face. At one time when he liked to cut his beard off in stages and take pictures. And some of these are on his SoundCloud music link. You can see some of his albums have pictures of him with half a beard or a goatee or something weird. He would, take pictures of himself as he shaved it. And I'll never forget one time we were upstairs and he's in the bathroom clipping. He says, Buddy, because we called each other Buddy. And I don't know when or how that started, but I found a letter I'd written him from way back before we got married, and I called him Buddy and that. And I'm like, okay, this started way back. Anyway, he said, Buddy, could you appreciate me? And I thought, I appreciate you all the time. What are you talking about? Every single day of my life, I appreciate you. And he goes, no, pre-shave. Would you pre-shave me? He wanted me to use my clippers on his beard to get it off so he could shave. So I appreciated him. The other thing for his work, he wore the same thing every day. He wore Dockers pants and a certain color polo shirt. I don't remember what day and color, but like Monday was a green shirt, Tuesday was red, Thursday, And so everybody, we knew what day it was, right? By the color of shirt he was wearing. He had so many funny little things. However, sitting at a computer all those years was his Achilles heel, because it ended up that he had 3 aneurysms, He had 2 popliteal in the knees and 1 in the aorta. And when those were discovered, of course, they were repaired. But it really made him kind of look at what his lifestyle was. He quit sitting as much and started walking and doing other things. But I got to read you this. Is something he wrote about sitting. It's called a sitting obsession. I've been thinking a lot about how much of my life over the past 30 years has been spent sitting. When I'm at work, I'm mostly sitting in front of the computer. When I'm going to and from work, I'm sitting in a car, and there's more. It seems like in this post-industrial informational world, there's a whole new law of nature called survival of the sittest. Sitting is hard to get away from, and it's so inglorious. Nobody ever says, sit your ground. The truth is, I can't stand sitting, and I've tried. I have found that I can now stand shopping, yet these days effort must be made to do this because it's offline. And so understanding is over sitting. Sit happens anyway. Oh my Lordy. So he took up walking obsessively, and of course got the Apple Watch so he could keep track of everything. And his morning routine was get up, lay in bed, read on his iPad or Kindle. And I always got up earlier, and then I'd come upstairs. He'd be in bed playing, and we'd say good morning, and then I would go on and do my walk or whatever. Then he would get up, and he would be downstairs doing his exercise, drink his orange juice, and then he would go out doing his morning walk. And he knew everybody in the neighborhood. They knew him. He would tell me about what he saw, what was going on. He really loved that, being active that way. And even his watch would tell him if he'd sat too long in his lazy boy doing his games, his watch would say time to move around. And so that kept him moving around a little bit. He got his last walk in that morning that he passed. And I was really happy for that. That weekend before, it had rained for 4 days here. And he couldn't get out and walk. He was about to go crazy. He walked all around the house. He did all of his laundry. He did all the dusting and the this and the that just to get in his movement. When he didn't have enough movement, he juggled. He juggled a lot, and he was really good at it too. So that was his thing. He took a lot of farts. He called it photo art, farts. And household pictures, and there's a book up here of his favorite farts. And a lot of these are just pictures around our house, which I realized in his retirement, and I realized, he's documented our life with farts, with little pictures. And the romantic poems over the years that he wrote to me, he wrote to Nissa, and the haikus toward the end, he really got into those. And it's, of course, his music. He never let that go. And he was able to, in his retirement, to spend a lot of time recording in his home studio, doing all the parts to his songs, and put them on SoundCloud. And I hope you get a chance to go listen if you haven't already. There's some old songs on there, and there's some new songs. In fact, there's one called Walkin'. I'm going to walk until the rest of my life, something like that.
Keep on walking.
Keep on walking, that's what it's called, yeah. But he was a great husband. I couldn't have asked for anybody better. He let me do, or he says he couldn't have stopped me. He supported everything I did. I had a hair salon, I closed it, I moved home. He let me do that, and he would often come in, and a lot of you people who were sitting in the chair know that he would come in and give me a kiss. Or after he retired, he'd come in and say, I'm going to the store. Everywhere he went, he had to come and tell me he was going to the store. I'm like, okay, go to the store. He let me travel. I did a lot of traveling for aromatherapy. Not that I made a lot of money, but I was an invited speaker, so why not go to Australia, Why not take Nessa too? She wanted to go. And then he decided he might as well go too. He didn't want to be home for 2 weeks, so we all got to go to Australia. I went on motorcycle trips. He stayed home and tended the kitties. And by this time, this is pretty much on her own. And then, of course, 9/11. When that happened, and I decided to go to New York and become part of a massage team and take aromatherapy to the people up there. I put out a call and $10,000 worth of material poured into my house so that I was able to take that up there the first trip, and we were able to give it out to all the people we worked on. We did chair massage for first responders. So after that first trip in November, I came home and I said, you know, we've had a lot of glorious, fun-filled, expensive Christmases here, but this year I'm going back to New York. And Mrs. said, I'm going to. And so she went with me. We stayed 2 weeks up there. We worked every single day. He came up on Christmas Eve and spent the day with us. We went to St. Paul's Church where we worked that morning. This is the church that was right off of the Ground Zero, where all the workers came in to get food or socks or gloves or sleep or whatever. And we had set up a little booth there where we gave a 15-minute chair massage routine that was intended not to relax, but not to sedate, just enough to get people back on a good track. And so it was a really gift to be able to do that. But Ovi supported all that. He came up and spent Christmas with us, even though we're working, and he's walking around lonely on the streets and thinking of what was the old movie, the Christmas movie? Anyhow, but he came and was with us. And then after it was all over, of course, he took all my pictures and helped make a slideshow. And a lot of it, I wanted a certain picture at the end. He spent a lot of time with the timing and listening to the song called Please Remember. It was very emotional. And after it was all over, I came downstairs one night and he was watching it and just crying and crying because he knew what it was all about. And so that was very special. I just don't want y'all to think that we had a perfect marriage, because we're like everybody else. We had our times. We even took a year off from each other. About 15 years in, he moved down the street. He wasn't happy. He didn't feel good. He was stressed. So he moved down the street and lived in an apartment, and we stayed at the house, and he was still there all the time. And after a year, we both decided that, yeah, we want home is where the heart is. And so this line that's in one of his poems over here, the perseverance to make things right. And that's what we did. We wanted to make things right, so we did. We became buddies for life. I'm really glad he got to retire, and he got to be home for a couple of years. He always missed everything that happened. Nessa and I worked a lot together, and we would do videos and things, and he missed all of that. But he was really happy to be home while we were able to do that, and he was our tech person. Any kind of problems we had, he would fix it and get the dongle or whatever, convert the movies. I don't know any of that stuff, but he took care of all of that for us, and he loved doing it. He loved taking care of us. If Nissa would be there and leave her computer, he would hop in the car and run it over to her. Or if we needed something at the store, he did all his shopping. He loved to go run his errands and, you know, go out and do things. He would go here and then come home and then go there. He wouldn't do them all at once. You know, he had his little routine. But he did love being at home and having time, and I'm so glad he got that after working all these years and providing us with a house and cars and everything else. We had, I feel like our love grew deeper and closer because we had more time together. When he first retired, I was angry. I'm like, hey, get out of my face. You know, he was around all the time, and I'm used to working at home all by myself. So it took a bit of adjustment for me to get used to him being home, but I realized, you know what, he loves us, and, you know, let him sit on the couch and do his puzzles, and let him have his scotch at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever, you know, he deserves it, and he deserves to be happy. So we got in the habit of having what we call beer 30 on the porch every afternoon, about 4:30 for me. Sometimes it was 3 for him. He would start early. But we would sit on the porch and have our beers and smoke our cigarettes and talk about the day. And it was wonderful, and I really got the feeling of what true love and deep love and love through hardship, what that means. And I'm grateful for that. Brunch with Nissa was the highlight of his week. She came over most Sundays. We would have brunch or we'd go out to brunch. And then in the last year or so, she started playing guitar, and he got to help her with that, which thrilled him to no end. He'd always supported everything she did. He showered her with gifts and tended her when she was growing up, and he was so proud of her and everything that she did. But he beamed when she would listen to his music, and especially when she wanted to learn guitar. And they would practice after brunch, and that was his dream come true. COVID was really hard on him. He didn't like not being able to run errands. He liked to take his mail to the post office and put it in the mailbox. He would not put it outside in the box with the flap up. He wanted to go to the store and get everything we needed every day, and get his cigarettes and his scotch, and go to the Shell station, which he frequented, which is in our neighborhood. He went by there at least every other day or so. Or if I needed something, he would run out and get it. But because the routines were his sanity, he did not like not being able to do things. He finally, he did all the shopping, and we tried ordering, and that just didn't work. He wanted to go to the store. So he came one day and brought me a pair. He had a rag bag. He said the Hanger family always had old clothes that they put in a rag bag, and they would use for whatever. And he pulls out of there a pair of Ron John boxer shorts that were a brightly colored plaid, and they had a hole in them, but there was still plenty of good material. And he wanted me to make him a mask out of that, and so I did. So he wore underwear for a mask for the first few months. He was so proud of that. So yeah, in kind of closing, I was so grateful for his undying love and his support all these years, his words of wisdom, even though he was a quiet man. When he did speak, it was usually profound or funny. And I often still now think, what would my buddy do? Or what would my buddy think? And I just have to say, he would just go, rub that beard and go, But I still can say, okay, he would do this or he would do that. I've learned to cut bamboo, which is something he did on a daily basis. We have a lot of bamboo growing. It pops up everywhere. He calls it damboo. And he would pride himself on how many buckets of bamboo he could cut and get ready for the lawn people. I have to sweep my own patio now. That's the other thing he did every day, just about. He would sweep. He didn't like blowers. They were too noisy. He would sweep by hand and a little brush, sweep up all the leaves on my patio where my clients come in, and often my clients would see him out there sweeping, and that was how they saw him in those last days. I still feel him and hear him. I hear his voice. I feel him close by. We have chimes on the porch that ring a lot, and I feel like that's him close by. I'm glad he didn't suffer. You know, he came in from that walk and went upstairs and collapsed, and that was it. He didn't suffer at all, and I'm glad he didn't have to suffer losing me, because I wouldn't want him to go through that. I'm so grateful for Nissa and Sam, who came and moved in and pretty much took care of me for the first year, and all my sister widows who I've been able to share things with, unfortunately. It's hard to relate to people unless you've lost your spouse. These women pulled me up, and now I can pull them up, and that's what we're doing. You know, it's like we're all walking each other home. That's what it's all about. And I'm grateful for the incredible adventure we had. He always said it's an adventure. And his last haiku, not his last, but his best haiku, that Nissa made this for him, but it wasn't his last one, it was one of the best, and it says, "I'd be happy here. When I'm not here anymore, I'd be happy there." And so, excuse me, like that, and his song, Seven Wishes, which is about us all being happy. That night, after he passed and we came home from the hospital and in shock, I'm sitting on the back porch having my own beer 30, and I hear the chimes ringing, and I heard his voice as plain as day, and it said, "Buddy is great," and that's all I needed to hear. So I felt like he was happy there, and that's what I needed. Okay, that's enough for me. You got no Sean? You go,
I used to run an open mic, and it's really hard not to get on here and go, "Let's hear it for Scylla." Oh, let's hear it for Scylla. It's a freaking hard thing to get up here and I don't know, is that a eulogy? That's what I've been thinking this whole week. I'm like, I've been writing. I do a lot of writing. I'm actually in a personal project. I very much inherited my dad's traits of being systematic. I love me some streaks. I love me some habits. Oh my goodness. And this year, I told myself, I said, "You're going to publish a blog every day." And I have been. It's on my website, nissahanger.com, just my first and last name. I invite you all to find that. Because, I mean, you know, of course, as a writer, you want people to read your writing. But also, I have written so much over the past couple of days, all these little stories about Dad. And, of course, I mean, I can talk and share all of them, but I want to give other people an opportunity to share. I know at least one other person, and hopefully maybe, you know, some of y'all got some things you'd like to say. So I'm going to save a lot of my stories to put on my blog maybe later, and if there's time I'll share a couple. But what I do want to share is this poem that I wrote for my dad. It's called Math Whiz, and it comes from, he's very much a creature of habit, right? And so every night, I mean, up until I moved out, probably I lived at home for 2 years when I was in college. I think at that point we might have broken this pattern a little bit, but he would knock on my door and open the door, and he would always say, "Good night, sweet dreams, I love you." And like she was saying, he would have these dreams where he would figure things out in these dreams. And so anyways, this is a little poem about all that. Math Whiz. While I would toss and twist in sheets, my father dreamt of theories and tidal waves. For me, X was a concept too abstract. How could a variable have a concrete answer, possibly both positive and negative? I was having a really hard time in algebra at the time. When advanced algebra went bump in the night, he would tell me fairy tales of functions and factoring. Haunted by hyperbolas, I preferred hyperboles. 10:15 p.m. always equaled a knock. Good night, sweet dreams, I love you. He would open up my door to a 45-degree angle, as if breaking the order would abandon me to the chaos of REM and random memories. Oh, you can clap. That's cool. Jinx? Yes? Would you like to come up here? So this is, I like to call her my Aunt Jinx. I don't know how we started that, but I like it. And whatever, you can introduce yourself.
Well, I am Ovi's baby sister, the baby one. We had 5 kids in the family total. Ovi was about 10 years older than me. So when I was little, growing up, I was in awe of him. I mean, just in awe. In my mind, he was an actual rock star. He was. I mean, I would go watch all these different performances. I would see him pull out a guitar and start playing and singing as if it was nothing. As I started growing older, I learned actually what an awesome and amazing individual he was. His wit, those of you who know him know he had this wit, patience, kindness, devotion. When our mom became ill, he took it upon him to take care of all the legal matters, the financial matters, and it just melted my heart, and I will always be incredibly grateful for what he did for our family. So, his love for Scylla was immeasurable. It was just immeasurable. And the pride he had, I know Scylla mentioned it earlier, but the pride he had for Nissa and the girl she was becoming and growing up to be, he just shined from him just how happy he was. About a little over 3 years ago, I moved to Nashville. And in Nashville, I actually moved into what I like to refer to as a cave. It was a horrible apartment. Didn't know that at the time. Spiders everywhere, big ones. And I started going into despair. I mean, I didn't have any family that lived there. I didn't have any friends that were there. I felt very isolated, very alone. I'm gonna cry. I came home one day to a dozen roses delivered to me with a box of chocolates. And it just said, "No, you are loved, Ovi." And I just wept because I knew no matter the distance, family was always going to be here and family was always going to be a part of me. I'm grateful he was my brother. And Nissa, when I look at you, I see his spirit, his smile, his kindness. Everything I think of Ovi, I see in you. And I'm grateful you are here too, that he had you here and that you're in our life. So, the one thing I loved about Ovi was I loved his haikus, but I also loved his post-it notes. Loved those post-it notes. He would have little tidbits of wisdom on his post-it notes. One of my favorite ones was, "Smile and others will smile with you." I know Ovi right now is smiling at each and every one of us with that big grin he has. So, to Ovi.
All right, now I'm thinking I should have had a sign-up sheet. Would it a spreadsheet? Oh yeah, even better. Y'all would have had to sign up on a spreadsheet. Would anybody else like to come up and share a few words? Yes, Dawn. I see you moving. Oh, also.
Wow, Ovi, what an extraordinary guy. I never knew anyone quite like Ovi. Always so even-keeled, always the wit, and I had the opportunity to play music with Ovi for quite a bit. We had some real fun times, and it really helped grow me and inspire me. He was so creative. I want to give him an honorary Best New Artist Award here today, because I think he was very deserving of it. And we loved him so much, as so many here did. And we're going to miss him, but he lives on. We love you. And thank you all for being here. We love and miss you, brother.
Okay, good. Yeah, somebody else get up there.
I'm Mark. I'm Ovi's brother. Ovi was not always even keel. Though really at a very young age, he got in a fight with a neighbor across the street, wrestling in their yard. Then a few months later, he got in a fight with my dad or his dad, wrestling down the hallway. But, you know, once he started playing music, I think really that mellowed him out quite a bit. He found himself. So some of the more humorous moments, at a very early age, Ovi actually ran into a bus. And I don't mean in a car, I mean he ran into it. He was playing football, he was going out for a pass, and I guess the bus was sitting there, so I asked him, you know, did you catch the football? So he gave me that look like Ovi has. So, and then later in life, him and Priscilla and this, I don't know if you went to Australia. And Ovi came back and he gives me a vial of sand. So I said, what's this? He goes, you know, you spend a lot of time on Clearwater Beach, and I thought from Australia I'll bring you back some sand. So one of the things I did, I still had it after he passed away. And one of the things I did, I went out to Clearwater Beach and poured the Australian sand into the beach sand, you know, in his memory. So I also put a poem together, and I call it Steps, and in memory of Ovi Hanger. And it's a short poem. Steps is what we do all day getting out of bed. Steps is what we do to move from point to point. Steps is what we do with family and friends. Steps is watching a friend grow with me. Steps is what we do to learn from a friend. Steps gets us through life on earth. Steps helps us get through the loss of a friend. Steps is more than just moving your feet. Steps is remembering. That's all.
And welcome Scott Hopkins.
Yes, I'm Scott. Two things happened in 1978, and I'm not sure how they combine. Tampa Theater reopened in 1977. Pastor Clemens had the first show there. I can't remember other stuff, but that I can remember. Okay. Meanwhile, I was starting to go out with Lonnie, who happened to be Scylla's, the first person she cut for your, to get her license. Cut her hair, yeah. And she's been cutting my hair for 40 years, and you can see there's not much left. Meanwhile, there was a show, I guess spring of '78, and I don't remember who the main band was, but there were two guys on stage with Ovation guitars. It was Larry and it was Ovi. And the guitars are magnificent, and their voices together were just heavenly. And then, oh, these people know each other. And they went to our wedding in 1981, we went to theirs in '82. Nissa and my son were born at the same time, and except for 1 year, we're together in school for 15 years. And then Scylla was talking about OV coming through when people were there getting your hair cut. And I would always remember that face. And there's a part of the Hebrew benediction talking about God saying, makes his smiling face to shine upon you. And that's what I saw every time I saw Ovi.
Mom wants to know if anybody from Nielsen wants to speak as the spokesperson. No, no pressure. But I am calling you out a little bit. All right. There we go.
Hi, my name is Barb, and I cannot pass up an opportunity to say hello to all of you that are friends with Ovi and family. Ovi was part of our Nielsen family for so many years. We knew all about the shavings day, the polo shirt that matched the day of the week. We would all know what day of the week it was. We look at Ovi. He was an awesome custom programmer for us. And he dealt with our colleagues in such a gentle-handed way, with such patience, and would teach us things. And we just loved being around him and his humor. And he spoke of his family all the time. We know all about you without even knowing you. So he did have such a love for that, and we just appreciate that we had a chance to be a part of his life, and that he was part of our Nielsen family. So thank you for inviting us.
I just want to take this opportunity. I don't know what the whole story was with Brony, the My Little Pony, right? But I just want you to know that Brittany over here, his daughter, is now the owner, or the caretaker of Brony. We passed Brony on. I mean, I don't know, it's like this My Little Pony that would go through the office somehow. If somebody goes out of town, it ends up on their desk, right? And then like my dad ends up with it. My dad takes Brony to Cocoa Beach, sends y'all pictures of Brony on vacation. It's fun times. But yeah, she mentioned that she ended up with Brony. So I just want to make that connection. Yeah, Brony has found his forever home. Or their forever home. Anyone else like to come on up? Yeah, Barry, come on up. You know how to work.
No, fix that for me. Hi. Oh, you can hear me, can't you? Okay. You know, it's really weird. When I first met OV, we were students at USF in 1974 and 1975. And he told me he was from Virginia. But he had a roommate that was from New York, and somehow he had a thicker New York accent than I did. But I don't know if you remember that. But anyway, OV and I met. We did volunteer work for Helpline, which was we dealt with all sorts of problems with students and the community, sometimes suicide. So understand, OV was saving lives back then. And as you said, he didn't like people that much, so he went into computers. But it's a sort of paradoxical, because he really did like people. And I just want to share with you a couple of stories. For one, I don't know if you knew this, OV loved knock-knock jokes. And I just told, here's one that he shared with me, and I tell it to my beloved grandchildren whenever I see them. So help me out with this. Knock, knock. Who's there? Dwayne. Dwayne the bathtub, I'm drowning. Was that not OV? Am I right? So anyway, so he was quite the humorous guy, and a few years later, we were actually roommates for a while. Larry, OV, and I, and a couple other people. We had this beautiful house on Lake Magdalene, and Larry and OV were quite the duo. And we used to go, you've heard people say, we would listen to them at the Proud Lion or Peanut Gallery you mentioned. And you know, one year they honored me. They were doing a concert at Lowry Park for children, for International Children's Day or something. And they asked me to join, even though I have no musical ability whatsoever. And but the funny thing was, I think Larry's wife Sandy videotaped it. So we go back to Larry's house, OV and Scylla's house, and we're watching the videotape. And I didn't realize I did this. In the middle of a song, I just grabbed the microphone away from Larry. Larry gives me a poke to the belly there. And I remember, Nissa, this was this high. We were cracking up over this. He just grabs that mic away from him or whatever. But there were other. Well, I wish I had written this down because there were other stories. One other story. Ovie and Larry would play various places. Now, one in their repertoire was The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel. So when I used to sit in the audience, they would do lie to lie, and I'd go, shh, lie to lie, 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 lie. So Ovie, again, what a guy. He would fix up his keyboard, so I would come up on stage with them, and they go lie to lie, and I'd hit the keyboard and go, shh. So that was the extent of my musical ability. But I'm glad, you know, Ovie would want us to laugh, don't you think? And he'd want us to be happy. And you know, it's funny because my rabbi said something that I thought was very salient. He said, grief is the fragment of love. So understand that. And you know, one other quote I want to leave you with. The Beatles said, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And Ovie made a lot of love. So let's honor his memory by being happy and remembering what a wonderful husband, father, brother, son that he was. Thank you.
Well, I definitely want to share with you what I think was my dad's favorite joke. He would say, you know, I was once arrested for witticism. They sent me to a penitentiary. Would anybody else like to come on? I'm just going to say some things from my list here.
I still remember his very first.
Are you going to come up and say something?
His very, very first knock-knock joke.
Oh, well, what is it?
I was 5, he was 4.
Uh-huh.
Knock-knock.
Who's there?
Pan.
Pan who?
Pancake.
Pancake.
You remember this Ovie knock-knock joke? Knock-knock. Who's there? Ovie here, Ovie there.
Oh! Yeah, he loved finding his name places. You know, one day we were having dinner one night, and he's like, did you know that Discovery starts with disco? And it has OV in it. And I'm pretty sure on his SoundCloud there's a song about Discovery starts with disco. I think he turned it into a song. Oh man. So what's on my list here? One of my favorite dad memories was when I called. So this was like regular part of the ritual, right? I would call the house. He'd answer, yellow. I always say yellow. Yellow. Hey, and I'd say, hey, how's it going? And he would always say, well, things are fine here. That's like, I was telling Mom earlier, I feel like his favorite word was copacetic. Like, doesn't that just like describe him? He just wanted things to be real copacetic. Well, things are fine here. But one day I called and he probably said things are fine here, but then he said, oh, also, FYI, I just got out of the shower, so I'm sitting here in my underwear. And I'm like, Dad, that's not FYI, that's TMI. What is that? Too much information. Oh, one day when I was living at, I had moved out and stuff, and there was this possum that was like half dead in front of the house, and I live with like 2 nonviolent vegetarians, and like nobody's gonna like do the thing, right? Nobody's gonna do the thing. And one of them says, hey, well, call your dad, maybe he knows what to do. So I call my dad, and hello, well, things are fine here. And I'm like, well, Dad, things are not fine here. There's this possum. It's kind of like half dead, blah, 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 blah. What do we do? And he's like, just let nature run its course. This is the natural order of things, you don't have to do anything. And I'm like, this is not the answer I was hoping to get. And then he just kind of goes on, changes the subject, and it's like, well, I just got done reading Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And I was like, this is not the time to call and ask you about this question. Oh, man. He loved taking me to concerts. We love going to concerts together. And he would always remind me of the first concert. We would reminisce on the concerts. Alanis Morissette. He took me to see Alanis Morissette back in 1996. And well, actually, it took me to see Raffi in probably like 1991. And and then he would take my friends. He would be the dad that'd take all the, preteen, teenage girls to the concerts, and he'd even like sit in the nosebleed, so we'd be on, have the floor. And then I started taking him to concerts when I got a little older and was less, too cool for school to sit. I was happy to go with my dad to a concert. I'm really, really glad that I made the splurge. I think it was like 2019. David Byrne from Talking Heads was coming. And I was like, I'm getting these tickets, Dad, and we are going. And I'll tell you what, that was the best show I'd ever seen. And it was unknowably the last time that we would see a show together. We also got, in 1999, there was the 20-year anniversary of Woodstock, Woodstock Live or something like that, Woodstock 99, and he was like, ooh, we can get it on pay-per-view, what do you think? We'll like get to see the whole concert for the whole weekends, in the privacy of our own home. Well, we didn't know what was going to happen. We were sitting there watching it. This one is a live thing. And Andy Dick, the very, I don't even know how you describe this guy as a comedian. He's up there. It's live television, no censorship. He totally like whips out his junk on live TV. And I'm sitting there. And my dad would love to bring this up years later. Within the past couple years, he brought it up. Yeah, that was the first time we both saw a penis together. And I'm like, oh my God, Andy Dick's dick. Oh my goodness. That's not a normal thing my dad would say. We did go to Australia, and it was a very, very long flight. And you get pretty delirious on these long flights. I also would ask a lot of questions. As Dad just told me, well, inquiring minds want to know. That's what he would always say, right? Inquiring minds want to know. Probably because I was always asking questions. And I see all these things that say duty free. And I'm like, what is duty free? And he sometimes he would just go off on these like made up explanations of things or whatever. And we're probably like, 14 hours into this flight, and he starts telling me about, well, duty free, that's like when sometimes you might not, you're free of all of your duties. And it goes on and on for a while, and it ends with him saying, and then sometimes you get up in the morning and you go to the bathroom and you say, howdy, duty. And lost it on this plane ride. Oh my goodness, we've talked about that for so long. I'll say this one last thing. I think I have more notes, but you know, I'll write a bunch of stuff later, and y'all can go read all of that. He was always very accepting of me, you know, just like loved me as I am. I think loved everything and everyone as they are, right? Like, did he ever really want you to change at all? And so sometimes we'd be getting ready to go somewhere or whatever, and I'd be like, all right, I'll be ready in a few minutes, I'm just gonna change. And you know what he would say? Well, don't change too much. Don't change too much. Oh, that's right. Okay, so I want to share, I knew there was one other thing. I want to share this poem with y'all, and then I'm going to share a song, and I think that might be, we've got a lot of white space on our memorial frame that we would love all of you to sign, and write whatever you want, draw whatever you want. We'd love to remember this, and I think it'd be nice if we all had a little bit more time to just hang out with each other. I'll put his music back on, but I want to share with you this poem. This was early this year. I ended up at the emergency vet. And so shortly after, a couple months after Dad passed, I was walking in the neighborhood one day. I hear this meowing from behind this fence in this abandoned house, and long story short, Mom says, I'm gonna go over there with a pry bar and a hammer, and we're gonna get that kitten out of this backyard. True cat lady over here. I'm like trying to climb over the fence on the garbage can and stuff, and then I turn around, and the next thing I know, she one-handed like pulls this kitten out, and we take it home, and we have her 16-year-old cat Sissy. At the time we get home, she's like, what are we gonna tell Sissy? And this cat has been like the love of my freaking life. I so adore this cat, and we've really felt like Dad sent the cat in a lot of ways. It brought so much joy in our life that was in a time that was a very dark time. And I remembered, I don't know, but I remember asking my dad, about reincarnation, and Dad, if you could come back as anything, what would you come back as? And I'm pretty sure he would say, I would want to come back as one of Scylla's cats. So who knows, maybe it's Dad, whatever, he sent this cat. It's a really special cat for me. So I take the cat to the emergency vet, and I just kind of try to be like Dad, and like, this is what's going on, I'm gonna make the best of this, and so I end up writing this poem. Doberman in a cone, old man at the desk. Everyone's got something going on today at the emergency vet. We've been here for 9 hours. We've been here for 4 hours. Our appointment was at 9. I gotta get home before dark. When will it be my time? Woman to the left of me, playing a game on her iPad. Many others on their phone. Almost everyone in a mask. I didn't think I'd be here so long after lunch, but glad I packed a snack or two, so I must have had a hunch. It's not my first rodeo, spending a day to care for my pet. Everyone's got something going on today at the emergency vet. Natasha's getting restless, making circles in front of her mom. Bijou can't move at all, so she can't be left alone. And now the bulldog's growling while the shepherd's got shaky legs. And I wish I had more coffee, but I guess I'll sip the dregs. The vet will be with you soon, but they haven't called my name yet. Looks like I'll be spending the day at the emergency vet. And now I'm starting to cry, writing this poem on my phone, because it makes me think of my dad. It's what he would have done. I can hear him in my head, telling me the words to write, reminding me that making art, well, that's the point of life. At least I don't seem weird, with tears that show that I'm upset. The mood is always somber, being at the emergency vet. But there's one thing that I thought, and it's the only good thing I know. It's that the gift that our pets give us, they help us practice letting go. Okay, so I'm gonna go out with a song, and it's the last thing. This is a song that Mom and I leaned real hard on when, in the earlier days of our loss. And it's a song by Robert Earl Keen. I'm like, how can I gracefully talk about it and get this chord out? Where's my roadie? This is a song by Robert Earl Keen called Feeling Good Again. And it's really nice to be, we were not feeling good for quite a while. But it's hard to multitask with this stuff, but not practice. Where'd Mom go? She's like, I'm getting out of here. You playing Feeling Good again? Oh, she had to go to the potty. It's potty time. Howdy doody. Well, I want to thank y'all for coming out. Those of you that I haven't got a chance to hug, and hope y'all stick around so that I can. Oh, okay. I mean, I typically, the culture has changed a lot in the past couple years, so I typically don't make this joke. If you know why, you'll know why. And if you don't worry about it. But my dad, also trying to stall while tuning, he would call this what you're hearing right now. Can you hear it? Can you hear the guitar at all? No. Where's my roadie? Is it plugged in? No. Okay, we gotta check all the things. Oh yeah, now you're gonna hear it a lot. Now you're gonna hear it. Oh, there it is. Oh. Feedback. Okay, so tuning. Here we call this the ancient Chinese song called tuning. Tuning. See, it doesn't even land anymore. We've all moved on. This is also why you tune while someone else is talking. Stand out on Main Street across from Mr. Blues in my faded leather jacket and my weathered broken shoes. A chill north wind was blowing, but spring was coming on. I wondered to myself just how long I'd been gone, so I strolled across old Main Street, walked down a flight of stairs. I stepped into the hall and saw that all my friends were there. That neon sign was flashing, welcome, come on in, it feels so good, feeling good again. favorite band was playing an Otis Redding song, and when they changed the chorus, everybody sang along. And Dan and Margarita were swaying side by side, and I heard they were divorcing, but I guess they let it slide. And I wished I had some money with which to buy around. I wished to cash my paycheck before I came to town. I reached in my pocket, found 320s and a 10. It feels so good, feeling good again. Silver City was standing by the fire, singing like they thought they were the Tabernacle Choir. And I wanted you to see them all, yeah, I wish you were there. I looked across the room and saw you standing on the stair. When I caught your eye, I saw you break into a grin. It feels so good, feeling good again. Yeah, I wanted you to see them all, I wished you were there. I looked across the room and saw you standing on the stair. When I caught your eye, I saw you break into a grin. It feels so good, feeling good again. Yeah, it feels so good, feeling good again. We did it! Thank you all for being here. Please, take a bookmark, get a drink, eat some food. We have this cake. Once Mom and I needed to move some furniture, and I was going to borrow my roommate's truck. And my roommate had a habit of going and drinking at the Hub, which is a dive bar in downtown Tampa on Sunday afternoons. Well, we lived next door to some bakers, and they had a death in the family. And they had this cake that they had made for an occasion that they weren't going to be able to use because they had to leave town because there was a death in the family. And the cake said, "Congratulations." And so my roommate decides she can pawn off this cake on everybody else that's at the dive bar in the afternoon. She brings this cake down there. So we show up. She's sitting there with this cake that says "Congratulations." And we decide to sit and have a beer anyways. And meanwhile, we start having to explain to everyone who comes over why we have this cake that says "Congratulations." And we start off by saying, well, blah, 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 death in the family. Everybody's like, "I'm so sorry." And we're like, "No, it wasn't us. It was our neighbors, but there's this cake." And then, you're drinking. And it turns into this whole thing about congratulations on your death. And how great it would be if we could have a death cake. And so when we were preparing for this thing, Mom's like, "You know what? We got to have a cake. We got to have a death cake." I wrote a poem about it. It's on my blog. Y'all can go read it there. But so we decided not to write congratulations on it. What we wrote, I did it. I'm no cake decorator, but I did the best I could with icing. If you ever received a card from my dad, he would have written your name on it, and then he would draw this very elongated L, like just sort of like a swirly thing, and then little teeny tiny it would say OVE, probably also so you could write his name on there, but it would say love. And so I put that on the cake. So anyways, that's the cake.
Yeah, my friend that made the cake for us, she didn't like that we were going to put congratulations. She thought that was tacky, like, hey, death is part of life, and here we are, we're celebrating. So for our grand finale, we're going to play a song of Obie and Larry's from long ago. Larry got the song remixed, and it was a song that they played, gosh, I don't even remember the year. It's before we got married, when they did a special show at Florida Mental Health Institute, and he did this whole series of things called the Orion Experiment. He had his new computer, or new, not computer, but what do you call the keyboard? Synthesizer, yeah. So he could make all kinds of sounds and stuff. But anyway, this song, Larry and Obie wrote together. One would write the words, or maybe the music, the other would fill in with some words. So together they wrote quite a few songs that together, and then the only ones that are on SoundCloud though are his own songs that they also perform. But the ones that they did together, Larry told me a story. I'm going to tell it, Larry, unless you won't get up here and tell it. But right before Obie died, not too much before, they met for lunch, and Obie had spent a lot of time making this CD of all their music, the one that's up here. It's got their picture on it, playing at the Proud Lion or the USF Gate or something. Anyhow, he'd spent a lot of time, he wanted to give that to Larry. Well, meanwhile, Larry had taken all their songs and worked in the studio and had them remixed. And so they met each other and exchanged CDs that day. Neither one knew the other one was going to do that, right, Larry? And so Larry paid me a visit last week or so, and he brought this over, and we actually had a copy. I did find it. But we want to play the one song that they played. It's called Younger Than Star Trek, and it'll be a fitting closing song. But it was over here. Well, part of that synthesizer music. But he was a Trekkie, and so that's what this is about, right, Larry? Having a party, yeah. We're having a party, so, yep, had a lot of parties. Yeah, yeah. What an incredible voice that man had, eh? You gonna talk, Lisa? No, we didn't.